everyone. I'm Lainey.
And I'm Dion.
Welcome to episode 4 of In The Mourning. So the last episode, we talked about March 6th and all that entailed with delivering the girls and, holding Lailani and visiting Lailani while she was in the NICU. So that's what we're going to be talking about, her NICU stay. Again, the first couple of times we were still in the hospital, so it was kind of easy to just kind of, for me to just get in the wheelchair and he will wheel me down to the NICU and we would spend time with her. And I had never, have you been in a NICU setting before or environment before?
Well, actually, when I was born, I was in the NICU, but of course I don't remember that.
Sure. Yeah. So when we got there, I kind of didn't know what to expect. So when you walk in, of course, you have someone greeting you. You have to kind of sign in and, show who you are and, all those things that buzz you in. And immediately you have to do like scrubbing. So they have, what's it called? Some type of soap.
Yeah, so you just got to scrub in like, a doctor would before performing surgery or anything like that, just to make sure you get all the germs and the gross stuff off of you.
Yeah, so they have like a whole timer and everything. I think it was like 3 minutes exactly that you had to scrub and make sure you scrub under your fingernails and do all that stuff just to make sure you're sanitized and clean before you go in with, these small babies. And so we do all of that, and I can still kind of visualize the hallway and getting to her room. And we encountered several nurses that we definitely took a liking to. Very sweet people. They genuinely cared about those babies as if they were their own. A lot of them helped decorate Lailani's room, and they had her name on the wall, and they even put Nolani's name within Lailani's name and decorated with butterflies and any type of milestone she did. They made sure to notate that, and just having her room just feel homey. And so yeah, we really appreciated everybody who just took time to do those things for her and for us, as her family. And I think we mentioned last time the machines. It's so many machines. They're in this little pod, and there's so many machines and wires and tubes and all these things hooked up to different things. A lot of those things you don't even know what they do, but you know that they're helping to keep your baby alive. So I remember, when we would go there, I would just thank God for these machines and for the people who God gave the vision in a direction to create these machines to help these babies.
So I think from that, we can kind of talk about, I guess it's maybe self-explanatory why Lailani was in the NICU. A child that is premature, the baby needs to bake for, preferably 32 weeks at the minimum, 40 weeks at the maximum, right? That's the window they generally want it to be in. With twins, they generally don't want it to go past 37 weeks because, they can get too big, and the whole other is maybe other, I'm pretty sure there's other complications with that. But when it comes to premature babies, the number of weeks where they have found for a baby to be viable, 22 weeks, I think, was the cutoff. And I think I recently saw an article where a baby was born at 21 weeks and is thriving. So our girls were 24 weeks and 3 days. So, Lailani still has some time, that she needed to develop. And I mean, from the internal organs to the nerves, the brain, all of those things still needed time to grow. And so the NICU is an artificial wound, so to speak.
Yeah.
And so, when you were talking about the machines, and you mentioned this, they put her in this pod. just like like a like a caterpillar goes into a pod to grow and to transform um, into a butterfly. And so, if you see over Lainey's shoulder, we have the book, the Very Hungry Caterpillar.
I'll take it down for a second.
Yeah, and that book, that book actually right there is one that we brought over 12 years ago for our son when he was a kid.
Firstborn. Mm-hmm.
So it's been through the hands of all of our kids and read to them countless number of times. And so
it's one of my personal favorites. So yeah.
And so jumping ahead just a bit, we took that book and read it to Lailani in the NICU I don't know how many times.
Yeah.
Because it's a great children's story, and two, because that kind of thought of her being this little bitty, thing that needs just a little bit more time to grow and get stronger before she can blossom like that butterfly was in my head from the moment I saw her in that little pod.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's good. I'm not gonna cry this early into the video, but that's good. That's a great analogy. I like that. But yeah, just seeing all the machines and hearing all the beeps, and the nurses were gracious enough to let us know what certain beeps mean, and when to be alarmed and when not to be alarmed. So initially when I would hear just any kind of beep, I'm like, somebody come in here and check my baby. And they're like, no, that doesn't mean that. This means, whatever. So, they will let us know what each thing meant. And they would also encourage us to be very hands-on with Lailani as well, which I loved. We got to change her diapers. I got to change her very first poopy diaper. Because I think it was a couple of days before she was able to poop.
Yeah.
And so when one of the times when we went to go see her is when she did poop. And I was like, you waited for mommy to change your first poopy diaper. So that was really cool. So they allow you to do that. I think Dion mentioned in the last video when I was finally able to pump her some colostrum, they allow you to, take a swab and kind of, rub it on their lips. And actually, one of the times, was it like sterile water? They allow you to put it on kind of like a Q-tip. I don't think it was a Q-tip, but it looked like one. And so rub that on her lips just to kind of moisten the lips and stuff like that so they won't be dry. And they also had like a little thing for her to put like a little Vaseline on her lips as well, just because with her mouth being open from her being on the
feeding tube.
Yes, and all that stuff. It could, cause her lips to be a bit dry and things like that. So they allowed us to do that.
Yeah, so I mean the whole setup, they do a lot for these little babies. They give them a whole room that it's like a large suite at a hotel where they have their section with their pod. They have all the the tools and instruments that the doctors need to monitor them. They have all the monitors there, and then they have a section for the family because they recognize that mom, dad want to be near them. And at this time, it was flu season, so they were not allowing full family to come in. So the kids actually never got to go to see her in the NICU, which is sad. They never really got to be there in person with her, but we shared photos and videos of her with the kids regularly. But they had a couch, bed, and bathroom and all that kind of stuff. And so, they encouraged the parents to be there as much as they wanted. And, we spent hours upon hours on that couch and in the recliner that they had there, sitting by the bedside, listening to those beeps. And it kind of became like the song or the soundtrack, if you will, to our visits to NICU. Going back to what you were saying, is walking in, that all, like, it you get flashes of it and you remember it. If whatever the what you were talking about with the scrubbing, it's the name of the chemical and whatever was just on the box, on the side of the box. So if we ever see that, smell that, it all brings you back to that that point in that time frame. And so we would go there as often as we could. Generally, for the parents, you could go there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. If you couldn't make it up there physically, you could call in, and the nurses would give you an update on your baby. They would give you the vitals and tell you how they're doing when they did their cares, meaning they changed them, fed them, and
change their position, because a lot of times they don't want them to be in one spot for too long. So he mentioned when they would do the cares, they would switch positions. So if she was on her back, they would put her on her side. If she was on her left side, they would put her on her right side. They would sometimes put her on her stomach, which is, they said that was her favorite position. She loved being on her tummy. So they would, do that kind of thing during her cares as well.
And so we started to learn the lingo over the time and understand what the beeps meant.
Yes.
What beep meant this and what beep meant that. And, even for some of her neighbors, we ran into some other parents who were there and, always wished them well and said a prayer for their baby as well. Yes. So, I mean, that was, our reality for, several weeks. We were going up there, visiting Lailani as much as possible. And as I mentioned in the prior video, the world didn't stop spinning during this time. So we still had a lot of things to contend with. And one of them was, doing final services for Lailani.
Yes.
And as Lenny mentioned, and we mentioned last episode, I think we referenced John Q saying that, it's not natural for a parent to bury their child or put their child to rest. And so dealing with that process was, it was hard. We had good people that, helped us through it, but it was just something that you didn't want to have to do.
Right.
You didn't want to have to make that arrangement. You didn't want to have to, pick out a casket or, decide what little gown she was going to wear. But we had to. So we had a small service for Lailani, and our best friends in life, the McKnights, and Minister Devin McKnight was gracious enough to come and preside over Lailani's memorial. We love you, bro, for that.
Yes.
And so we explained the names for that we chose for them and what they meant, I believe, second episode or so. And so Lailani, Serenity Rain Bass. Lailani means heavenly mist. And of course, serenity means serenity, and rain means rain. So, if write a movie script about it, the day of her service, it was raining. A light mist.
A light misty rain, like literally perfect.
The whole time, it felt like the whole day. And so we had the service. It was tough. It was tough. We got up that day, and your mom, sister, and nieces and nephews were here. The funeral home allowed for my family to watch.
Online.
Yeah. And it was just the heaviness of that day. It was.
So as he was saying, Devin delivered a beautiful message, and he even had he said he changed it because God was sending him another direction that he originally wanted to go. And a part of the message was that God is still good.
Mm-hmm.
And that is what I've been learning too along this healing journey, this grief journey, this mourning journey, that despite how I feel, despite what I am going through, God is still good. His goodness is not dictated upon how things are going in my life. Like, he is God and he is still good. So that message really kind of hit me hard. I It's so easy, and we've talked about this. It's so easy to say God is good, and He's great, and He is merciful, and He is all the things.
When you're doing well.
Yes, when you're doing well, when life seems good, and you may get through like a little bumps and bruises, but overall, things are well, things are good. It's easy to say God is good then, but when something hits you this hard, when you go through something that you have literally no control over and it just happens to you, if I'm honest, it is hard to still say that, even though you know that, especially if you have a personal relationship with the Father, you know that He is good. But when something hits you in the chest, it kind of takes you aback. Like, God, I know you're still good. However, this thing that you're allowing me to go through, it does not feel good. So, but yeah, the service, the memorial was really good. Our daughter,
Yeah.
our first daughter, Bailey, she actually got up and said a speech for her sister. And when I tell you, it was so moving because the day before, ooh, she had asked if she could say something. And I was like, wow, that moved me, that she wanted to do that. And so she sat in the bed with me and she wrote out what she wanted to say. And it was so beautiful. It was so beautiful.
I think it surprised us because I think we mentioned before that, these kids, they're smart.
Mm-hmm.
They're smarter than you give them credit for. And she's not even 8 yet. She was still 7.
She was still 7.
Her birthday is in April, so she was 7 years old. And we didn't really understand if she understood what was going on, the severity of it, the gravity of it. And she did. And just to see that the love she had for her sister, even though she had was never able to see her.
Yeah.
But I'm sorry, y'all. She, even to this day, the way she speaks about them is as if she's played with them 1,000 times. Comb their hair.
Yes.
And
we talked about all those things that, Bailey, you're gonna have 3 sisters.
Yeah.
So our second daughter, Khalees, she looks up to her sister so much. They do playing in the kitchen, and they play with the doll houses, and they play dress up, and Bailey will put like jewelry and purses and stuff on Khalees.
And we're looking for Khalees.
Yes.
She's gonna be in Bailey's room.
She's gonna be in Bailey's room.
Yeah.
So she was saying like, oh, I'll do that for Lailani and Lailani. We'll do hair and makeup, and so she was anticipating and so excited about being with her sisters and being a big sister.
Yeah, big sister times 3.
Yeah, so I think that's for her, why she felt compelled and why it really did hit her hard.
Yeah.
And our son as well, he's such a compassionate young man. He's very empathetic. He wears his heart on his sleeve. And he's also, have expressed, I think we had mentioned in the first video, I believe, how he felt about having four sisters. And so, gradually it started to grow on him, like, I'm going to be a big brother to four sisters. And so he, kind of started to, like, I can, that's going to be my role. I'm going to protect them. I'm going to, play with them. I'm going to, make sure nobody messes with them. So,
because he's a great big brother.
He is.
Bailey and Khalees. And like I said, the kid is just, emotionally mature for his age, and just has a great heart, and, will do anything for his sisters.
Yes.
So, once again, even with him being 12 years old, we knew that he understood, but we didn't really, it's hard to tell sometimes with these things, particularly when you're dealing with it yourself.
Right.
And so, he kind of pulled into himself, and, he's a quiet kid for the most part, but, he was a little bit more quiet, and, we know the day of, that's why I said that heaviness, we could feel it, we could see it, amongst all of us, and especially with him, because, that was his baby sister. But I was so proud of Bailey, proud of Junior too, because, he, was taking care of Khalees for us, allowing us to, to console each other.
Yes.
And throughout the service. So, I was just so proud of them and how they handled this situation. And then, like I said, when we got there, it was, the mist, when we were driving home, it was, the mist was coming down. And
I don't want to fail to mention, you also spoke at Lailani service. I don't want to make you emotional, but it was so, I keep using the word beautiful when I mention my husband, y'all. But it was, I don't know any other word to describe it.
Thank you.
You were so strong to get up there and pour your heart out about how you felt about your daughter. And to even then say, that pretty much, I'm just paraphrasing, that you're like, we're leaving it in God's hands, and we know that she's in a much better place, and that, one day when we leave this earth, we'll get to be with her again. So I just, that was so beautiful. So, yeah. But as he mentioned, going there to the service, it was a misty rain, and I remember us going in hand, and you were like, I prayed that this was what it was going to be, that it would be this nice misty rain, and it literally was, y'all. Like, just, I don't even know how to have the words for it. And as we were leaving, same thing, misty rain. And I believe we took the kids back to the home with my mom and sister, because my mom, Evelina, my sister, Shaquila, they came here, and when I tell you they took care of us, they cooked. My mom, she wasn't even here for an hour or two. She was folding clothes, folding towels, and yes, they just got to work as soon as we didn't even really have to ask for anything. They just looked around, what needs to be done, y'all hungry? My sister went to the store, got food, cooked for us. And
Chef Dee.
Yes. She's a whole chef. But yeah, they just came and loved on us, and we just appreciate them for everything. But we dropped the kids off, and we stayed for a little bit, and then we decided to go up and go visit Lailani, and it was so good seeing her. We told her all about the service for her sister, and read to her, prayed over her. We always, always, always prayed over her. Just letting her know everything that was going on outside, in the outside world. And that visit was really good. And when we were leaving, the same kind of misty rain, and we're listening to a gospel Pandora station, and the song "God Is Good" by Jonathan McReynolds came on. And when I tell you, I just started bawling because it literally, I guess, was a confirmation to what was said during the service, that God is good. And just the words, if y'all, I don't know if I could, for copyright purposes, play the song, but if you guys could, if you haven't heard the song, or even if you have, please go look up God is Good by Jonathan McReynolds and really listen to the words, and those words really hit you in the heart, especially if you're going through something. So yeah, that was just, the day was perfect. Even in the midst of that, the circumstance what we were doing for that day, just everything surrounding it, it just, it almost kind of made you feel at peace.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say that, and it's a weird thing to say that you had peace through all of everything that's going on, but there can be those segments of it that are what you need in that moment. And I felt that whole day, from the rain, the message, the words that were provided by Devin, to Bailey, even speaking myself, the just everything about that day was kind of what we needed, and what our daughter deserved.
Yes. Yeah.
And so I guess in a way I was at least content, at least happy in that, we got to honor her and remember her, because that's what she deserved.
That's what she deserved. Yeah.
And so this happened, like Lenny said, we visited Lailani after that. And then the, I guess, reality of having a daughter, a child in the NICU, kind of started to set in after that. And so for Lailani, generally they want a child to stay in the NICU up until the time that they would have been delivered if there were no issues.
Right.
So once again, that time frame between 37 to 40 weeks. And I think because she was a twin, they weren't going to let you go past 37 weeks. So that was what we were looking at, would be the earliest time frame for her to come home. So we were looking at 3 months of her being in the NICU.
This was in March.
So we were like, we have to settle into this. We have to, make this a part of our lives, just as if we were taking a kid to school or taking him to cheer practice or taekwondo practice. We have to make this part of our routine. So we started doing stuff. We started, buying, because at that time you were pumping, and
yes,
she was pumping, y'all. She was producing milk. Like,
I think at one point we said, I had to realize, I think my body was making enough milk for two.
Yeah.
Because I was producing so much milk. Even so early on, I would say even a week or two of pumping, I would be pumping 4 to 8 ounces at a time. So it was a lot, but I was so grateful because, again, if you watched, I think the previous episode 3, when I was having issues with pumping and I was getting down on myself, and I started praying and asking God to help me do this, help me produce nourishment for Lailani, he answered that because I was producing so much milk, freezers full of milk, and even so much so they told me stop bringing milk. They were like, because I guess each each baby in the NICU, they have their own section in the freezer. They have a refrigerator in their room, like a small refrigerator in their room. But they also have a section somewhere in their kitchen area that has like the frozen milk and how they distribute it, and for each feed and things like that. So yeah, they were like, please.
Yours is full.
Yes.
So
yeah, Lailani's is full to the max, so they were like, don't bring any more milk.
So that's one of the things, adjusting to this new reality that we had. We bought backpacks or coolers to be able to specifically hold the milk, and the schedules were like, morning visit at this time, afternoon visit at this time. If there was something going on with an appointment for one of the kids, or they had another activity at the school, I would go here, she would go this time.
Right, because Bailey's in cheer, Junior's in taekwondo, so they twice a week for both, and then they still had school at this time. So yeah. They definitely needed to like kind of try to buckle down on like a set schedule.
Yeah. And so that was hectic, but it was, like I said, this is, like we mentioned about the hectic life that we were going to have dealing with all 5 kids. We were ready for that, and so we embraced this as well. Like, we're not going to let this become something that is a burden to us. We were honored and joyful that we were able to take this on, and if we had to switch up plans to be able to go see our daughter, we were going to do so no matter what. And so that's kind of what I want to talk about now, like that whole NICU kind of time frame, that process, and all that went into it. When we were first going to this hospital, it was like, oh, where do we park? And all this. So like after first couple of visits, we knew, bam, this is our parking spot. Like, hey, and it was our parking spot. Somebody was there. It was like, hey, who's in our spot? Right.
Right.
So we knew, and bam, hit this elevator, walk across this, up to the elevator here, bam. The lady at the front desk, hey, mom and dad, like, knew us, right? So we walked through, scrubbed in, hey to the nurses, hey, baby in this room, baby in that room, to Lailani's room.
Yeah.
All right, where she's at with her cares, how much did she eat today? Right?
Yeah.
Do we need to change a diaper? We need to do, a bath or anything like that. Yes. So we were locked into to her schedule. Oh, and then bring in the backpack full of the milk and plop it down here. Take that.
And a lot of times the nurses would laugh, like the amount of milk that I would bring. Sometimes they're like, "This is a lot of milk," but great job, mom. So they're just scanning it. So with the pumping too, they give you like labels. So no baby, like there's no mix up. So there's labels with my name on it. And it was called Mother's Milk. Actually, I thought that was a cute name, with a barcode and all that stuff. So it was very much so down to like a T on how they handled the stuff. So I would have that. They would scan the barcode and say, "Oh, you brought 5 things of milk. Okay, great." They have people to come by and pick up fresh milk and then drop off the milk that was how do you say, like, distributed, so when she would have her feeds, it was already
ready to go.
It was already ready to go. So,
And so we got that part of the routine down. And then so we would bring stuff to her room to make it feel only for her. We would bring books. We brought other little things to her room. And the nurses would also decorate it. And one of the cool things they would do is, like, when certain milestones happen, they would write a note as if it was from Lailani herself.
I love that.
And then one of the things that really that we really thought was amazing is that they made a little. They put Lailani's name up, and like they what's it when you put the paper and you put the plastic on it? What's it called?
Oh, laminated.
Laminated. There you go. That's good to work. It laminated her names in letters, and put it on the wall. And then I think they did that, and then another time we came back, and I looked at it. Oh, Lailani's name was there in butterflies. Her so each letter um, was a butterfly on the letters in Lailani's name. And as I mentioned in the previous episode, the butterflies are symbolic of a baby or a loved one that has passed, at least at this hospital. And we actually looked it up, and that is one of the kind of things that they do symbolize. And so for them to take the time to do that and put recognizing that she was a twin and her twin wasn't here with her to do that, was really nice.
Yes.
And so we would do that. We would look forward to every time we came in there, getting a report, them telling us how, like I mentioned, feisty was the word they used when she was born. And feisty was the word that they used for her after that. She was very particular. She liked being on her tummy.
Being on her tummy.
She didn't like the cords. She would grab them, pull them out the way. Constantly
grabbing the cords. Yes, and they're like, "Lailani, don't do that. Don't grab the cord." And so they would even try to, for the little beds that she was in, they would, kind of swaddle her. Yes. And she would get out that swaddle every single time. A foot or an arm, something was coming out. So she was quite feisty.
And then herself, to see, the first time I saw her, she was just tiny, just pink and just, squirmy and just really tiny little thing that it was hard to imagine, just how small a baby could be, and to see her start to grow, to see her, the color change in her, to see her hair even, see her eyes. She would open her eyes and with our son, I remember when he was born and when he came out, I was right there, and his eyes were wide open, looking at me like, I'm your dad, you're my son. And I remember looking at Lailani, she had that same look. She would just look and lock eyes with you. Yeah. Hi, Mom. Hi, Dad.
Yeah. And I think after a while, she started to know our voices. Yeah. Because we would come in and they will always have kind of like a cover over her her pod, and we would come and pull the covers back and say, "Hey, baby. Hey, my sweet girl." I was calling my sweet girl. Yeah. And she would always either move or those eyes were open. Yeah. So I think after a while she knew her mom and dad's voice. Yeah.
Yeah. And one of the things they did to help, kind of with that, familiarizing the baby with their parents, they did the little scent claws. They would you would wear a cloth or a little trinket on you, and then they would put it in there with the baby so they could get used to the smell. Yes. Anyone who has a baby and a newborn know they're all instinct. They're all for smells, sounds, feels. And so I thought that was a really cool thing. And so you put the little thing in there and she could smell. Yeah. That's how my mommy smells. That's how my daddy smells. And even with the sound, not to put on, have a little baritone or whatnot. So, and one of the, it was noted several times, like, when I spoke or whatever, like she would react. Yes. Maybe it was because of that. I hope I wasn't, giving her a little scare or anything. No. Like, because sometimes, when the kids act up, you do have to put the bass in, right? But she was a sweet girl. She never acted up. Yeah. But that was, I think, something I didn't even really appreciate is how still, even though she was in this pod, even though she was so delicate, that we still got to interact with her. She would react to us. We still got to be her parents, even though, she was in this. Yeah.
I would say had, limited a bit. Yeah. From her circumstance.
Of course, not as much as we wanted to.
Yeah, but
more than we thought we could.
Yes, absolutely.
That's what I. Absolutely. Yeah, so that's what I was saying. From of course, I think most people have heard about the NICU and they see it, they see the baby, and then they're like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, yeah.
I was actually surprised how much, we were able to
They
interact
allow
with
us
her
to do,
and how much we were encouraged to do so.
Because they would even, when we would call all the time. And, we had a direct number to her room. And so we would talk to whoever the nurse was that was in her care. And, they would be like, well, she's due for a feed during this time, you guys. So we were like, okay, we'll be there. Because usually they wanted us to hold her during her feeds. So that was another thing that was like, just a great feeling because I obviously I couldn't personally nurse her like I did my other babies. So, the next thing for her would be, she had her feeding tube, but I would be holding her while she was getting nourishment from me.
Well,
so
let's go back a step. Let's talk about that first time holding her.
Oh.
Because I think they told us early on that we would be able to hold her, and I'm like, I don't want to. What did I say to you? I was like, if I sit down with her,
you're gonna fall asleep.
Because that's as I would tell you as a dad, one of my favorite things is Saturday afternoon, Sunday afternoon.
Yes.
When I have them babies, Khalees right now, hey, it's nap time for both of us. So I will take her, sit in the recliner, and take a nap.
Yes,
and so
yes. I have so many pictures, y'all, of him and all of his babies. Yeah. He's that's what he does. He's in his dad chair, as we call it, and he's usually napping. They're both napping. So.
And so that the NICU room, they keep it dark. They don't want the light to bother them too much. It's cool in there. Yes. It's and like I said, that beeping became kind of like a background white noise or whatnot. And the recliner, even though it was a hospital recliner, it wasn't too bad. Pretty comfy. And so I was like, yeah, you go first, because
he was scared. He was scared to hold her because
so that's my way of saying I was scared to do it. But.
Yeah, and I understood that because when he gets relaxed, of course, he's going to fall asleep, and he definitely didn't want to fall asleep because it was a lot of wires, like we said, and the tube, her tubes and all that stuff. So I remember even the little placard that they made after I held her. Yeah. It was a kangaroo, and the baby, and it had mommy's first hold and how long I held her and everything. It was so cool. I don't think we mentioned like it. I think he mentioned that the pod is almost kind of like an incubator, like. Yeah. And so it's like nice and toasty in there. They keep it a certain temperature and all that stuff. So they want you to hold as often as much as possible, but to keep her body temperature regulated and all that stuff, you can't do too much at one time.
Yeah.
I would say.
And actually, just like not the first time mom, but like when the baby is born, they mention the skin to skin.
Yes.
That helps regulate. And so it's still true in this scenario too. But they want to make sure that if you're doing that, the baby's body temperature still is at the level that's optimal that it needs to be, for them. And so, and then they have, she had her feeding tube in, she had the breathing tube in, and so it was just a lot. And I was nervous, like, how are we gonna do this, right? But I mean, it wasn't the first time for the medical professionals there, and so they were able to allow us to hold Lailani as often as we felt comfortable doing it, as long as there was nothing going on with her.
Yes, but back to answer your question, the first time holding her, how you see the commercials or the movies when something like angelic or heavenly happens, and it's like, oh, like that's how I felt. Like I felt like, oh my gosh, like this, like, and I maybe I can speak for most moms. I won't say all moms, but the first time getting to hold your baby, period, is like an unreal feeling. You automatically forget the pain and everything that you've gone through as soon as that baby is laid on your chest. And that's how I felt when I was able to hold Lailani. Like the C-section pain, because I was still very much so in pain, still healing from that. Like, it's like you forget about it. It doesn't even matter in that moment, because that baby that you've um, held in your belly is now outside of your belly and on your chest, and like there's no better feeling than that. And so yeah, it was amazing, to say the least, to feel her warmth, to feel her little squiggles. And I told him, even like just feeling her kind of like squirm a little bit, it felt like how it felt when she was in my tummy. Because we said in one of the other videos, she was very active. She was the active twin.
Yes.
Nolani, she would be doing her thing, but Lailani was definitely the one that was all over the place and very, very active. So just to feel that, and oh man, it was amazing. There's literally no other words for it. So yeah.
And so when I actually got brave enough to hold her myself, yeah, it brought back all the memories of holding each of the other three, Junior, Bailey, and Khalees, for the first time. But she was just so tiny.
Yeah.
I think that just every time I remember thinking how tiny she was when I first saw her. And then, like I said, the next time is when, they placed her on me. I'm like, my hand is bigger than her. All right. But it still felt, like you said, just heavenly.
Yeah.
Having her on my chest. I could feel, her like little heartbeat. I could feel her fingers when they would, like, I guess, scratch up against me, and when she wiggled. And I found, I think one of the nurses mentioned, like, because she would have this, the oxygen would sometimes go up and down based on, how she was breathing and her heart rate and all that kind of stuff. And when I would talk or hum, it would stabilize.
Yes.
And so
every time. And even one of the nurses, because they don't stay in her room 24/7. They're right outside of her room, and they have monitors that show where her numbers are. And I remember one of the nurses saying, like, the whole time she was on Dad, her levels were perfect, because he would be talking, or he would be humming, or he would be reading to her, and they just stayed. Like, and I was a little bit jealous, because I was like, wait a minute, Lailani, don't do me. But yeah, like I think, and that goes back to how we felt about her knowing our voices, and I feel like she knew her daddy's voice, and it would always stabilize and always be in perfect range anytime he held her. So yeah.
That did my heart good.
Yes.
And so I would hum or talk, or the whole time I was holding her, and admittedly I did fall asleep. I think you snapped.
Yeah.
You woke me up, but you snapped the picture first. And
But yeah, I know you were like comfortable and relaxed, and
like
you
said,
got your baby on your chest.
Yeah.
Of course.
So that was, that was something that we looked forward to every time we were able to do it. Like I said, it even though we were in this scenario, there was so much going on with it. It wasn't what we pictured or would have desired for her, but we were still able to be her parents, even in this situation. And I am grateful, and I honestly believe that she knew that. And I don't think, she knew her mom, she knew her dad. And, that gives, me some peace knowing that.
Yeah.
But, if y'all have watched any of the other episodes and even the intro, that unfortunately things did not, come to a happy ending with this. And so, for 31 days, Lailani was in the NICU. And I would say overall, we're happy with how she was doing. Um, we knew that there's a lot of complications that can come up, um, but we were fairly positive in her progress.
So for 31 days, we read to her so many books. Again, this was her favorite. She always reacted well to that particular book. We played music for her. We sang to her.
We just talked to her.
Talk to her about what's going on with her siblings and what's going on in the outside world. We would constantly pray over her. Anytime we left that room,
Yes.
we were praying. Our hands were on that pod or on her, and we were praying over her and for her, for all the nurses and the staff that were handling her, all the other babies that were in the NICU as well. We made sure that we filled that room with prayer. And so we wanted just for her to feel loved and to know that she was very much so a part of our family. She was away from us physically, but for a majority of the time, but she was very much so ingrained and in part a part of our family.
Yeah.
And as he mentioned, the world does not stop, even when you're going through a tough time, even when you're going through something like just trying to even figure out a schedule to go see your child while she's recovering and getting big and all these things. And so one of the weekends, Bailey, our first daughter Bailey, she had a cheer competition in Orlando. And this is typically something we do as a family. We always go together and make it kind of like a mini getaway, mini vacation or whatever while we're away. And I tell you, if you saw one of the other episodes, that we both missed her cheer competition that she had in March because I was in the hospital and we were dealing with, losing Lailani and all those things. So we weren't able to be there, and thankfully she had cheer moms and the coaches that stepped up to help her to get there. And so for this one, we kind of wrestled with it a bit. I know particularly for me, I did not want to be away from Lailani for an extended period of time, even though it was like a day trip, like a kind of turnaround, quick trip. I kind of wrestled with that. But, we had a talk, and I felt like I did not want to, I don't know how to say,
not be there
for my other children as well, even in the midst of this. And again, we always go as a family. So the fact that none of us went, even, our son and of course Khaleesa didn't go to her last competition, we talked about it and we decided that all of us would go to this competition, especially because it was a quick one. It wasn't, they weren't, some competitions is multiple days and they cheer more than one day. So, but for this one, it was kind of a quick one. So we okay, before that day, before we left, we went to visit her and to let her know what we were doing. Bailey has a competition coming up. We're going to go do a quick trip, and we'll be back and we'll see you when we get back. And so we left and went there. Bailey did her thing. Her team did their thing. And then we come back Sunday. So that was a Saturday. We went to visit her. We came back Sunday. But it was pretty late at night. So we didn't get to visit her that day because we were obviously traveling. And then we came back really, really late. Try to get the kids settled and in bed and all that stuff.
So all the time that we were away, like we mentioned, they have a number that you can call that's direct to Lailani's room. And we were able to speak with her nurses multiple times over this one to, check in on her. And I know how hard it was for Lainey to be away, even though when we come home, we're away from her, but just to do anything out of that routine that we had settled into was difficult. And, but, we wanted to be there for Bailey, and we wanted to do these things as a family because, like I said, this was going to be our reality for some time, and we wanted to not let it prevent us from enjoying um, our other kids and celebrating them and everything that they were doing. And of course, we still always, wanted to be there and would be there for Leilani um, as much as possible. So we were calling in, and then, on the way back, it was late Sunday night. We got back to the house, putting all the kids to bed. I take the baby up and put her in bed. And I think I had fallen asleep, and you woke me up and said the hospital called and said things were not looking good for Leilani. And, I'm waking up like, what is going on?
Yeah.
And, I don't think we really even spoke for more than 30 seconds. I said, you go. I'll make sure the kids are good, and then I'll be right behind you. Um, we prayed before you left, and then I think we were on the phone while you were driving there praying.
Yes.
And so, I wake up the kids and tell them all to get into our bed, and that, set the alarm. You know, we, I will call them as if I need to, but it was, I think, 3 or 4 in the morning. I said, y'all just sleep. To my son, it's like, y'all just sleep. If y'all wake up, do X, Y, and Z, give me a call, because the hospital then called me and asked, because I guess they couldn't get you for whatever reason, and asked if we were on our way. And I said, doctor, be playing with me. Like, why are y'all telling us to come up there? And they said, we don't think she's going to make it. And so Lainey is on her way there, and the doctor asks me if, they were doing life-saving measures on her. And they asked me if they wanted if I wanted them to stop. And I said, doctor, are you asking me if I want you to let my baby die right now? He said, yes, sir. I said, no, you do everything you can. Her mom is on the way. You keep her. You keep her alive until her mom gets there. And so I'm in the car, driving way too fast, trying to get there. And you get there before me, and you tell them what you saw.
On the way there, it felt like I was in a movie, like I was outside of myself.
Yeah.
Again, like it wasn't real. Quickly driving, there's maybe 1 or 2 cars on the road, because at this time it's 3-4 o'clock in the morning, and it just all felt surreal. It I don't even really know how to explain the feeling. I think the best way I could put it is I felt like I was outside of myself. I was watching myself do all these things, and I get there, do the same thing that he said. We had like a specific spot. We would park in that spot, get on the elevator, go down this hall, get on another elevator, do all the things to get to where she was. And I remember when I got there, someone said, I guess they can see me kind of through the window. And someone said, that's the mom. And they just buzzed me in. I didn't worry about scrubbing or doing any of the normal routine things that we had normally, that we were normally due going to see her. And I walk down the hall and I see them working on my baby. And I just felt so numb. And, they kept working, and eventually they asked if I wanted to hold her because there wasn't anything else that they could do. I said yes. So they put me in a recliner, the same recliner that we used uh, countless times when we would go there to hold her. And trying to hold it together. So they put her on my chest, and I'm holding my baby, and they still have like a pump. I don't know how to describe, but it's a pump that they're still pressing just to keep air flowing through her. And as I'm holding her, I'm just crying and crying and crying and crying. And somebody asked me if they wanted to stop, and I said no. So they did that for a while, and after some time, I just said, just please stop. And so they, took all the little extra things off of her. And at this time, you made it in.
Yeah. And so, similar to what Lenny was saying, I park and I'm sprinting at this time through the elevators, through the thing, and I don't know. They told somebody because at the hospital you have to sign in between 9 p.m. and 5 a.m. And so I just run past the desk, and the security guard looks at me and like, go. And so I hit the elevator and I get up, and when I get to the door to the NICU, I hear them say, "That's the dad." And I run through there, and there's, I don't know, it seemed like 24 people, nurses, doctors. I see two of them hug each other, and I get to the room, and they kind of make way for me, and I remember seeing you there in the middle of everybody holding her, and I tell you, I've never been filled with as much sadness, anger, confusion, frustration at one time. And I could see the looks on everyone's faces. And I was angry. And I started to raise my voice and say, what happened here? What happened here? And I think one of the doctors started to speak to me. And I said, you said, baby, calm down. That's not who you are. And I thought that was, we talked about strength. Even in that low time, he still loved me and cared for me enough to know that I can't let any amount of frustration and anger not allow me to be the man that you married, the dad that Lailani deserved, even in that moment. Because yelling at somebody wasn't going to do anything. It just may make you feel good in the moment, but what does it really mean? You were like, our daughter is here. And so we tell everyone to leave the room. And I think she still had a couple of tubes and some tape on her face. I said, take everything off her face. Because before this time, we had never seen her whole face. Yeah. She always had a tube or something covering part of her face. So they remove everything from her face. And I just said, just please leave us alone. And we sit and we hold her and we cry and we pray. And we cry and we pray and we cry and we pray. For hours.
Hours we were just all over the room with her, walking with her. Moved from the recliner to they had like a sofa chair that was by a window. And I remember going over there with her and holding her and looking out the window. And I remember getting upset because it started to become daylight now. And so there's cars, they're probably going to work or going about their day. And I just remember thinking in that moment, like, y'all are going to work, y'all are driving, y'all are, possibly having a good morning and doing your thing. And here I am with my baby that's no longer breathing. And I'm holding her and I'm feeling the warmth leave her body.
Yeah.
And they don't even know. Yeah. They don't even know that's what's going on right now.
And I remember looking out that same window dozens of times when we would visit her. We could see the highway, so we see all the cars buzzing by. From our little room, the whole world is still moving outside.
Yeah.
And in this moment, it was dark, the sun was rising, and the world kept spinning, even though it felt like ours
stopped.
Yeah.
So, again, we were there for hours and hours and hours with her, just holding her and loving on her the best we could, trying to hold it together the best we could. And of course, at this time, there's people in and out, with various things and requests and this and that. And, now we're thinking, like, how can this be?
Yeah, you mentioned it felt like a movie. And how could this be happening again? Having to deliver the girls early, losing Lailani in childbirth, and then losing Lailani 31 days later. How is all that stuff on us? And you felt like, you mentioned you felt like it was a punishment.
I did.
And I understood what you meant in that moment because I couldn't think of anything else. But as we mentioned with faith, we couldn't stay there long.
Yeah. And I wanted to mention, I'm glad you mentioned that, because, you know, when you know other people that are Christian who walk with God, I think one of the things that we were told at a young age is to not question God.
Mm-hmm.
But in that moment, we had a lot of questions.
Yeah.
And it wasn't questioning who God is, what he can do, just who he is as a whole. It was not questioning his existence as God. It was questioning, why us?
Yeah.
Why our girls? Why in this way would it be a part of our story that we got pregnant with them, spontaneous pregnancy with twins?
Not spontaneous, we do. I'm sorry.
You know what I meant? Like,
yeah.
We didn't know that we would end up pregnant with twins.
Gotcha. No, I know.
And you made me lose my train of thought. Getting pregnant with twins, and then the way that we found out, 20 weeks into the pregnancy, finding out it's twins. And then, those 4 weeks of bliss, delivering them early, losing one in childbirth, and now losing the other 31 days later. I had some questions for God.
Yeah.
I had some questions for my father. Why did this happen? Like, who am I to be? Who are we? Like, what are we supposed to do with this type of hurt?
Yeah.
Because it did feel too much to bear at that time.
I don't think either of us really wanted to, one, let Lailani go. But I think you actually, more than one, that said, in a way that I think showed amazing strength, in that we have to keep our faith. We have to be strong, not just for ourselves, but once again, doing the right thing for Lailani, for each other, for our family. And, I generally would leave these things up to you. And I said, are you ready? And I think there was one time or two you said no, and then you looked at me and said, I'm okay. Let our baby rest. And then as we were walking out, and we get into the car, I think the reality again of, we don't have our babies. We're leaving this hospital, we're leaving this NICU without either one of our babies. And we were like, where do we go from here? How how do we deal with this?
And even how do we tell our kids? It's, they knew that, we left home and, we left instructions and they didn't know exactly what was going on.
Yeah.
So it was just a lot of things surrounding us in that moment, and it felt overwhelming.
Yeah. It's not a. It felt like we were redoing the worst part of our lives all over again within a month. And I'm just asked the question, like you did, why? We were faced with how we would deal with everything to come in the future. So we're going to ask that you join us next time as we talk about how we are dealing with that, the loss of Lailani, and going forward from there. So please join us next time for In the Mourning.
See you next week.